Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We're here with our midweek podcast looking at the other internationals that happened this weekend and the last weekend for pretty much everyone except for South Africa and Wales of this Autumn Nations series. We're going to look through the matches and the results, but we're also going to do a bit of we're going to get the score report cards out and try to just rate each team's year in international rugby, try to give them a mark out of 10 and see what we've learned about these teams. We'll also look at the World 15. We have some breaking news with James Ryan's ban as well. I think someone here is very mad about that, but we'll get to that later. So, Shaun, I think let's get the ball rolling right now. Actually, maybe we can actually kill two birds with one stone because maybe we won't really discuss Ireland if we don't do them now. So let's discuss Ireland. Let's start with James Ryan. So he's been banned for 3 weeks for his clear out on Malcolm Marx. So the disciplinary committee gave him the entry point they said it's a moderate entry, so that starts at 6 weeks, but then gave him full mitigation because he was very nice. He brought the biscuits in, and he also gets another week off because he can attend, I guess, ruck school. I don't know if there's a ruck school and a tackle school if it's the same school.
But Malcolm Marx didn't say something nice about him, so we should add 4 weeks.
That was one.
What?
That was one exception from Bowden Barrett.
What a load of shit. I've also realized I've been moaning a lot lately. Maybe it's not lately, maybe it's a lot. Maybe like all these guys like Matt Williams and Stephen Jones and all those, maybe it's like an age thing. Maybe I'm reaching that age where I give less of a shit and want to be controversial. But this is a farce. Like, so on the report card, whatever, they've got like head contact. Yes. Reckless, yes. Intentional, no. Player injured, no. And vulnerable player, no. So that was intentional. What is intentional? Like, was he intentionally trying to like punch someone? I think maybe that intentional piece could be a little bit vague, but it looked intentional that he wanted to go and clean out Marks, but he was never in a position to do anything legal. So it has to be intentional for me, but that could be debated. The vulnerable player part, 100% Marks is vulnerable. 100%. He's bent in at the ruck. I even think he might be on a knee, or maybe he was on the knee after the hit. He's vulnerable. There's no doubt about it. What a load of rubbish. And this tackle school. So the one thing everyone is saying, this guy, and then on the mitigation side, guilty plea, yes. Good record, yes. Remorse apology, yes. Good conduct, yes. Any other, there wasn't anything. So everyone's saying he doesn't have a good record because he was involved in the previous Mark situation, but he wasn't sanctioned for it. So World Rugby can't use it. And this is why it matters. It mattered back then. It matters now because of stuff like that. And therefore that makes him not a repeat offender. I'm sorry, the entry point. So they said it was mid-range. Like they're hinting at they know that what he did was wrong, but then they've tried to justify it down. Like that's how it looks to me. But mid-range at six matches, there should be no mitigation there because of his actions, which were illegal. Very much so. He went for someone's head. He didn't have arms. He was corkscrewing in, missiling Superman. Watch our last podcast for me to dive deeper into that. I'm starting to feel my blood pressure raising a little bit. But what a load of rubbish. Like, why is he going to tackle school? That wasn't a tackle. You know what I mean? It's not like he got the tackle wrong. He was wrong the whole way. Tackle school's not going to help him. That is a 6 weeks, you can bring it down to 5, maybe. I'm happy with that. But that was what he did there was very clearly Malcolm Marx has pissed in his cornflakes, and James Ryan has never forgotten. I don't know when it happened. Maybe a Barbarians. I don't know. I don't know if they ever play. I don't know. Something happened. Poor decision.
So yeah, I guess number one, tackle school's curriculum is very wide, Sean. So, you have different modules and subjects you can do at tackle school. So you can, there's shoulder charging or shoulder charging, there's racking, I guess there's maybe stomping, there's, making sure you are remorseful at your disciplinary hearing. So yeah, it's quite a broad range. Um, I agree with you with regards. I mean, look, this is the big problem with disciplinary things in world rugby. This mitigation thing becomes a bit farcical because you can
It's
get,
opinion based.
yeah. And I mean, it's obviously just based on as long as you apologize and you don't appeal the sentence, you're likely to get a shorter sentence. So, which I mean, that's
Yes.
kind of how the world works in like the legal sense as well. Like if you accept like your guilty plea earlier, you're likely to have a smaller sanction, even if you think you're innocent. Then someone like Lodiago trying to fight his
Yes,
case,
yes.
and then he gets 4 weeks, whereas James Ryan gets 2 weeks.
Do you,
So
do you think they negotiate? They're like, if you do this, this, and this, we'll give you 3 weeks.
I
Do you
think
think they
so.
have those conversations?
I I don't know if it's explicit, but I do think, I mean, people know what the rules are, so I don't even think you need the conversation now. You know that if you come in remorseful, if you apologized, if you
Biscuits.
make sure you got to the player or sent something to the player saying, "Hey, my bad."
He didn't. He didn't. Listen, when he walked off that field, he had a glaring look at Malcolm going, "Yes, I wish you were lying on your back unconscious now." That's what I saw. That's what I saw.
Yeah. Then I
And
don't know
there's
where they
no
get.
ways he's shaking hands with Malcolm. If he's got a shiner, then he went to go and shake hands with Malcolm because Malcolm's going to give him a little
Yeah.
RFS.
I guess he must have apologized afterwards. So yeah, we know now that mitigation, if you come with a guilty plea, if you don't have any priors, if you do your apology like during the course of the thing, and if you're not like, I guess, a bad or an example of this is Rassi when he was being a bit obtuse with the disciplinary situation in 2021, you will probably get half your suspension. I guess there's ruck school with tackle school, so that also gives you a week off. But yeah, Sean, I think the main thing is look, with reckless and intentional, in at least in law, like it's usually either one or the other. Reckless basically says, look, you knew better, you maybe didn't have full control of the situation, but what you did was enough for you to know you knew the risks and you did something bad and therefore you need to be punished for it. Whereas intentional is you're going full in to try and injure the person. If someone wants to say what Ryan did was intentional, I don't think you can argue against it. Um, I guess he was able to convince the people that, or the display committee, that it was just reckless and not intentional. So, you know what? Okay, I think it's relatively 50-50. The vulnerable player thing is a big mistake. Like, I think that part makes this something where it should be 6-4 rather than 6-2 because of just the nature of the clean out, the focus on this type of clean out. Like also, and I don't think we talked about this on Monday, Sean, Marks wasn't in a position to steal the ball. You were actually right when you said that. He was on his knee before um, Ryan came in. So this was actually not even a threatening situation in terms of the rugby game as well. So there was no need at all for James Ryan to have done that. But yeah, I guess the Irish team especially, but teams are obviously seeing like a red flag and see Malcolm Marks near a ball and just go, okay, we need to take him out as quickly as possible. So yeah, the other thing is that Ireland now are starting to have a bit of a record now for these types of cleanouts. Obviously, we talked about the previous Malcolm Marks one. Anton Dupont lost his ACL as well. Weekly,
Forgot about that.
bi-weekly. Yeah, there's situations with Leinster or Ireland where there's cleanouts that go a bit wrong. So unfortunately, you can't really add that in terms of James Ryan's disciplinary thing, but like it's those things where they get away with a bit, and then up until now there is a situation like this. So I guess that yeah, I mean this is something definitely for Farrell and Leo Cullen and I guess Irish rugby to look at because this is now, the jig is up. They can't really get away with this anymore. And, someone like Ryan, especially, who obviously, I guess this is his job, he will hit a ton more racks than pretty much anyone else. And he needs to be that enforcer, needs to sort of lay the groundwork. He needs to be very careful now because he'll be a watched man with everything that he does now. So that's, I guess, the one positive if you want to take from this. But yeah, I don't understand the vulnerable player thing. I'm not a fan of how the mitigation thing works in rugby, but this is also not inconsistent with pretty much every other case that has happened in the last few years.
Yeah, that is the thing. Like, it almost feels like everyone is on forever, barring a couple, but like, feels like everyone's always on a good record slate.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like,
Yeah. Pretty much
uh,
everyone except for Jasper Visa.
100%. That's exactly what I was thinking about. But yeah, it's such a weird thing. Like, there's got to be a point where you be like, because it's become the norm. The norm is six, we'll give you two. Because there's like, oh, we'll give you a week off for tackle school. So there's always a reason why we can dumb it down. Like, dumb it down is not the right thing,
Yeah.
but there's always a reason why. Like, 6 weeks, everyone's happy with that mid-range point to start at 6 weeks. But then it's always like more than halved.
Yeah.
Like, he's only serving a third of it because he's going to tackle school. They're like, if he goes, he's going.
Maybe he doesn't
Like,
like it. Maybe he has plans this week.
but that's the thing, like, make it mean something. There's got to be a point where they'll be like, cool, you haven't done stuff like this before, but what you did do was not good enough. Like, who's the poor sod they're going to make an example out of? But
Mm.
then the week after, they're not going to make an example. So there's that. But, like, I'm trying to look at this as not a South African, and it it does change things. But if you look at James, I don't even have a problem with James Ryan. Like, I think he's a good, hard, solid player.
Yeah.
I'm quite impressed with the way he's fought his way back because it looked for a while that he wasn't going to be part of the Irish setup. Like, he's really like he's had a pretty good season like to fight his way back in. The mix been a couple of injuries, but he's played well. Like, you've noticed. So I don't really have an issue with him. And then he's gone and done that. Like, I didn't even have an issue with him because of the Malcolm Marx thing previously. Like, I generally don't hold grudges like that. That's not my thing. Like, I try and look at things on their own, like independently, because I feel like this whole like you have one, we need to have one, or yeah, but this because of this, it doesn't fly for me. It's a never-ending black hole of unhappiness. But looking at that and the way that he approached that and went in, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look
Mm.
rugby. He's come in and he's at the point where he's realized he's got it wrong. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He's gone in for a big hard clean. At the point he's realized he's got it wrong, he's then shoveled to go and make sure that he's hit him with the shoulder. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't look right in rugby. It doesn't look like a natural rugby movement. And you can see that. You can see that in everything. Like, if you can take the emotion out of it and you look at something, you're like, does that look rugby or not? And again, it's opinion. Like, we're trying to get the opinion away, but you've got to write laws to take opinion out of it.
Mm.
Like, it just didn't look right, and I don't agree. Like, Malcolm Marx, I believe, is clearly vulnerable, but that makes it a 5 week ban or 4 week ban.
Mm.
And he's going to come back for a Champions Cup game. Like, the right thing to do would also been like, cool, let's make sure he misses both Champions Cup games.
Yeah, at the very least.
Because like that's gonna make it count.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe it was 4 weeks and we're like, it should have been more, but he does miss the opening Champions Cup, which
Yeah.
doesn't really matter for Leinster or for a top side because they're gonna make the knockouts anyway, because you can lose all of your games and still by points difference make the freaking knockouts as a lucky loser number 320. So it also doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's ironic that the one where Malcolm Marx doesn't get injured is the one he's banned for. Because obviously, if he was injured, this probably would have also been closer to 6 weeks than 2 weeks, because that's also one of the factors that they look at.
which I
Yeah,
don't agree with.
so go on, John.
I don't agree with that.
I also don't think it's not a conducive way to look at this, because that then basically is just about a bit of chance. It's not a I don't think it's a logical way of doing a disciplinary thing, because the outcome of whether a player gets injured or not is very much based on just luck at most times, not necessarily you doing something wrong or right.
It's
So yeah,
this whole like we're looking after the player, that just shows that that's a lie because you're not looking after the player. You'll be like, oh shit, are you okay? No, you're not. Oh, naughty, naughty. That's not looking after the player. Looking after the player is stopping that from happening.
yeah, which this doesn't. So yeah, so James Ryan, as Sean said, will miss only two Leinster matches if he goes to tackle school. But Sean, let's talk about the Irish team. I mean, we talked about a bit on Monday, so we don't have to go through too much. So what we're going to do is we give them a mark out of 10 and then talk about what we've learned about the Irish team this year. So Ireland's record this year, they've played eight. I mean, they played 11, won eight, lost three. They were third in the Six Nations, only losing one to France, and probably had their best win in the Six Nations, which was the first match against England. I think their match against Australia was also great. I mean, they also beat Portugal, like their second or third team, by 100 points. The problem, though, is the three losses. They lost to number one, two, and three. Well, okay, France is five right now, but we know that doesn't count. But they lost to basically the top three teams in the world, and they lost pretty handily. So, Sean, for me, I think it's hard to say it's more than like a 5 out of 10 for them.
I was gonna go a six, but it's a clear downward curve,
Yeah.
like we can push pause on the TV and you won't see it dropping anymore, but he will be at a six. So yes, I think five's a good shot. In fact, I like that. Five is good considering what we've learned from those losses and the
Mm.
holes that are starting to come,
Yeah.
and the questions that are being asked. So five, oh, who would have thunk, eh? Imagine losing just three games and you get a 5 out of 10. But they lost important games.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just the nature, and it's the nature of the games. Like if they none of them were close, honestly. Like obviously France pasted them at home, South Africa did the same. New Zealand, yes, it was somewhat close, but at the end they just ran away with it. So that's the big problem, I think, for Ireland. That, and I guess what we're learning now is they're now coming to the back of that sort of top five of world rugby. So the top five for world rugby, Sean, just a quick stat. They've played 36 games against, the rest of the world. So everyone that's not in the top five, they've won 34 out of 36 games. So the only two losses were the Boks against the Wallabies in Ellis Park, which you didn't watch, that didn't happen, and then New Zealand losing to Argentina. Every other game that Ireland, France, and Africa, England, and New Zealand played against everyone else were wins. So I don't think there's any credit you can give to Ireland for beating Scotland and Italy and Australia. It's more, okay, what are you doing against the other big five teams?
that is an unbelievable stat. Stat, you win. You win the internet. That's amazing. And it kind of really drives home how competitive and good like top five is and
Yeah,
how much it matters and what you got to do when you're there.
yeah. I think my lesson or question or thing I've learned about Ireland is I guess it's something we discussed on Saturday, so or Monday, so I'm not going to go too long on it, but they need to find a way to be competitive against these teams again. So yeah, I guess they're kind of changing their game plan to be a more kicking game plan, less possession, not being, um, you know, stuck with the ball in possession and having the defenders sort of make games on them in that way. So that I think is one part of it. Another part of it is they need, I think, some level of like impetus from like big boys like um, James Ryan, yes, but Joe McCarthy, Paddy McCarthy, those sort of players. I don't necessarily think Ireland need like the big renewal and everyone's old and throw them out, but they definitely do need to start incorporating, I think, some of these young players with a lot of potential. Like there is, I think, a lot of like players that they have unearthed, and I think people are slightly unfair to Andy Farrell with that record. Like there are some players coming through and he is giving them chances and they are proving themselves to be quite good, if not at least pretty decent at international level. So it's now just about what's that right balance of, okay, do we start Paddy McCarthy with Tide Furlong or Clarkson with Porter or is it Truku? Do we play him at six with Van der Fleer and Conan and what is then that right balance so that this team can just grow and adapt and then show a new picture? Like I think you talked about it also on Monday, Sean. Everyone knows the picture with Ireland, even if they change their plays, they know what they're getting. So it's now this is kind of the time now. It's almost the perfect time because if you implement something newer or update something, people don't have time to work it out before the World Cup.
Yeah.
The question is, can Farrell do that?
Yes. So I just want to talk. Paddy McCarthy, I can't remember if I mentioned this. I've been super impressed with him. Like, I've been so impressed with him that he is a potential threat moving forward. Like, I think he could be that good. Um, yeah, he can definitely scrum. He gets around the park and he's not penalized as much. So it's quite big. Um, so what I learned about Ireland is they and I think that Farrell will I think it would have been driven home a little bit with Farrell is that there's a lot of change that needs to happen, or you need to um, kind of change the look of something somewhere. So whether it's new players or you redesign ring rows or Archie and you don't put them on together, you know what I mean? Like you need to change a something because I I agree with you totally. If Ireland overhaul and are quietly working on something under the covers and overhaul it and unleash it in 2027, you're not going to be able to get it right. How you'll not be able to manage it as an opposition team if they are hit it and they're running. But in World Rugby, you need some time to get into it. So they need to show change. I I will say I don't I think maybe maximum 15% of their game plan will change, where 85% is going to be the same, and that 85% is going to be those forwards. They might have a more dynamic a player based somewhere. Like take a Van der Fleer out hypothetically, who is doing your carry tackle ruck for days and doing it well, carries reasonably well, and then you're putting in a more skillful player and playing him wider, which changes the balance of stuff that might change, but I think 85% of how they generate things and get it going is going to be the same. It's going to be big forwards coming around the corner, and then it's going to rely on Gibson Park. So if they lose Gibson Park, Casey's a very, very good player to bring in, but he has a different game vision and a game execution.
Mm.
So that would be the biggest worry for me. Not at 10, which everyone is talking about. Like I think Gibson Park is the problem because once Casey's there, there's no one else. Like I don't know, is it Paddy Patterson who's next in line? I'm off. Yeah, I'm showing some ignorance here. I don't really Blade not because he won't be hanging around that long. Like I don't know what other nines they have.
Yeah.
So I think that's the issue, and that's probably a reason for Farrell to keep that 85% of that forward dominated space and then unleash to the backs. I almost feel like that's justified. If Gibson Park goes the whole way, they're golden. They're in a good place if they just tighten up. Just put a new suit on the guy. Instead of putting that same old crappy suit on, just get him a new one. Okay, make it fit a little bit better. They can
Mm.
do that with Archie Ring Rose, with a lot of players. Like they really can, even Low. And I know that Archie and Low are really under pressure to not go to go till the next World Cup. but they still will add value leading up to it, at least, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Bucks have shown the way that you don't have to throw all your old people out. It's just about, okay, can we give new roles to some of these older dogs so that you get their impact and you maybe aren't as reliant on them
But their
and they
IP is
can,
still there.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
can also help you guide, like, I don't know, for centers like a Cathal Ford or a Hugh Gavin for scrum off. I don't know why they haven't tried Nathan Doak. I rate him so highly, but he doesn't seem to be in favor.
So, yeah, I didn't even mention him because of that. I quite like him, and he covers 10 as well.
Yeah.
So, there's a real 6-2 option on the bench there for you.
Yeah.
Um, you can be more forward dominant there. He kicks really well. It is a bit of a weird one. But then again, they overlooked, I forgot his name, Cooney. They overlooked Cooney
Yes.
forever. But to be fair, it was Gibson Park and Murray at that time, which is really difficult to. But there was a period, there was at least a season where Cooney could have got plenty more caps.
Yeah.
So that's that issue that speed bump that Farrell is struggling with is like trying to hold on to everyone. Um, but he is looking, but it doesn't look like he's looking hard enough, if you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it adds that perception that he only looks at people that wear blue week to week and not the other colors. So, look,
Problem.
yeah, I think I also think people need to be a bit realistic because there's only four professional teams that Ireland has. It's not like he can give each and every player in those four teams minutes.
It's five professional teams because Leinster are like Marty's. They've got two teams playing in the same freaking tournament because they've got 1,000 players.
Fair enough. But yeah, like I think something that would help, even if Farrell doesn't, if you, like you said, if even if he changes 15% of it, is okay, let's rather have a bench of Kelleher, Porter, Furlong, Ryan, Van der Fleer, um, Crowley, Aki, that sort of like bench, and Casey then, and finish sort of strongly and with experience rather than, maybe a bench with like the younger players, but maybe don't necessarily have maybe as much impact and can sort of start the younger players and sort of give them the confidence. So yeah, let's see how they do that. So the next game we can go to is England versus Argentina. Again, a lot to talk about here, but I actually want to almost give you the floor first on the main thing to talk about before we get to the controversy, which is, Sean, you've been on the Max Ojomoh train for years, and I know this is must feel like a big vindication to you of your support of obviously your Bath Centre and how he did on Saturday. He was player of the match, scored a try, two try assists as well, most meters gained, was just an absolute like terror with the ball, was actually pretty decent defensively as well. Um, Sean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you must be feeling very happy and very vindicated about this.
So happy. I ah like I like him and I rate him. I didn't like to do what he did there in that game. I didn't see it coming. I think that he operates really well with Lawrence. Like I think they are together really good, which is flippin' scary considering how he performed. What an unbelievable game. So I know they mentioned it in comms, but he's played 10 quite a bit for Bath, or he's played this season, he's played 10, but he has played previously. So it really suits Borthwick's extra playmaker space, which he
Yeah.
quite likes. So I was quite surprised that it took so long for it to happen. And it was an injury enforced move as well. So it was kind of forced on him. But what a performance. I'm such a big fan. I really am. And and for me, as vindicated as I feel, I'm just that's one step closer to the Ojomo Lawrence combination, which I think like I honestly think it'll be a problem for everyone, South
Yeah.
Africa included. They are really powerful. They're really punchy when they get like those guys that all test players are know about and supposed to do it, but that accelerate when they hit the line or hit the ball. Both of them are like that,
Mm.
and they're really operating very well telepathically. It's like Delenn and Creel and Delenn and and everything like they really just know each other so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did well to come in, have Ford as your brand new 10 and have Slade as your 13 and still to do that, still to stay connected and still able to express yourself was quite something. What a performance! And
Mm.
yeah, I'm so stoked.
And yeah, I mean, I think it helps England so much because, look, this has been actually a pretty, and we can talk about England a bit. This has been a pretty good year for England in terms of just plugging that number 12 hole, like, which they've been wanting to do since, Tulagi left. And they found, okay, Fraser Dingwall's actually pretty decent at international level. If nothing else, he can sort of do a job there. Seb Atkinson got a chance in the Argentina tour, and he was pretty decent as well. Jomo obviously got a player of the match award. We've seen Ollie Lawrence obviously be 12 when he plays with Henry Slade, and that hasn't been a problem. So there is now options that England can sort of play in 12 and 13. And I think the nice thing with it, if you play a Jomo and Lawrence together, is it doesn't matter who stands where. They sort of know one will go inside, one will go outside, one will take this line, one will take that line. They know how to run with each other. That sort of try that Slade scored, both for Jomo, Lawrence and Jomo feel like they do that every week for Bath. So I think that's a very promising thing now that England has unlocked. And look, in terms of the game though, yeah, I think England obviously did really well to get the lead, in the first part of the game. Argentina obviously came back furiously as they have been doing now for the last few weeks. I, if I can ask you, Sean, do you think I mean, England did win ultimately. Argentina probably left themselves with a bit too much to do. Is that something that, yeah, I guess, who's the more sort of mad coach in a sense, without, let's leave the Tom Curry thing we'll talk about just now, but who's more mad as a coach? Is it Felipe Contepomi with okay, why don't you guys start like this? Why is it need for you guys to kind of go behind and then sort of start playing your game? Or is it England being like, I thought we sorted out this last 20-minute situation. Why are these gremlins coming back?
There's definitely a bit of both. Like I think Argentina don't want you. It's not sustainable to chase a game all the time. Like you need to be good enough to punch that last 20 minutes, whether you're behind or not. If you are behind, you've got the experience of doing it and then you can get over the line. But to live your life chasing a game, there will eventually be a game that you should have won that you end up losing because of it.
Mm,
So there's that. I don't think Contepomi is going to ever look at this game and feel like he wasn't robbed, which we'll discuss later. So it'll be hard to get that like real honest answer. But for Borthwick, they had set up enough with, if you look at Spencer and Ford, they had set up enough of a platform to play the game deep, to get the points and do their thing. And then they had the unknown game of Ojomoh, which no one really would have expected to come to assist them. If it wasn't for Ojomoh, like a performance like that in a test match against Argentina is really hard to come by for
mm,
anyone. Like any team, there are very few teams that has a single player that is that influential, especially when it's someone that's playing his second test. Like I'm sure it was his second test. I know
mm.
people spoke about his debut. I'm sure he made his debut in Argentina, or on the Americas tour, I think. But anyway, so for me, I feel England maybe a bit more so because they put themselves in a position to be in a better, they put themselves in a space to be in a better position. And I don't feel that they really capitalized on it. Listen, you put yourself in that position and you expect individual players to come right and do their thing. It happened to be one major player that did it. So I suppose there's that. But they knew what was coming, and I feel that they were like, we need to get a better lead, and it's going to come, and we're going to hold it off. And shout out to Byron McGuigan, who, like, he is a Saffers abroad. I mean, as much as he was born in Namibia, went to school in Milnerton, but his journey, like from Milnerton to Hammies to Scotland, Scotland Sevens, Scotland Test match to Exeter Sale, and now coaching and then coaching England, he's going to be there for a while. They held on, but there were line breaks that they were giving, like they scrambled well, but some of the line breaks they were giving away. Listen, it is Argentina. Like there was an extra 5, 10 meters on that run, and I was like, "Whoa, they're gonna do it."
Yeah.
So I think England will be a little bit upset that you know what's coming, and you actually can defend it. You can because they weren't manufacturing too much, but they were picking up weaknesses and then going like a tired player or a something. And that's where Argentina hurt them. As a whole, I think England would be more upset. They would want a better performance, especially after the last week where they dominated the All Blacks and the conversations all their media were having. I think they would want it better. They were in the right places to do better and just didn't come off for them too well. Well, with enough points, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. It's I think for Los Pumas, it's just look, we need to find a way that it just all clicks for 80 minutes. I think look, Contepomi's found something nice with kind of rotating his team a little bit and then having
Yes.
quite a strong bench. We've seen Matera on the bench, Gonzalez on the bench, Kramer at the bench, Oviedo, and Santa Carreras has been probably one of the best bench players in the world this year. And they come on, they add some impetus to the game. They really are able to change or to pull the game into Argentina's favor. So that's, I think, a big positive. And now it's just about what is then that balance of getting the 15 to do that in the first half, but and then still having that kick at the end with your bench.
The the one thing I will say, I know I spoke about like Max Ojomoh. I think the one space that maybe England was hoping for more was on the left wing with Elliot Daly.
Yeah,
Um, I think perhaps, listen, Daly didn't have his best game, but he wasn't that poor. Like he made, there was one clear error I remember he made on attack, but
mm,
defensively, that was also one of the reasons why he was there was that defensive. Like he shot up and shut down a fair amount. So I suppose those two offset each other, where they're so used to having a real, like a better weapon on the wing. Um, but yeah, like that was the only other space that I just wanted to add from what I said earlier.
no problem. Let's talk Tam Curry, Sean. Yeah, I think you actually need to probably go through it a bit, but my understanding is near the end of the game, Juan Cruz Malia is making a clearance kick. He, I think also like, which didn't help the situation, his kick was like almost like he was trying to kick it like a bit like sideways, like trying to direct it out. So his planting also isn't sort of the most ideal. Curry does what I think I mean, as part of the loose forwards union, I can confirm every loose forward probably would have done that situation. Just, the late hits, the sort of like, there's enough, plausible deniability to know that you can probably get away with it. Yeah, makes the hit. Malia then lands badly on his leg. He's torn his ACLs, we've heard. Obviously, he's not going to be playing rugby anytime soon. Bit of an argy-bargy. And then there's a bit of afters in the change room where Contepomi accuses Curry of sort of getting into an altercation with him and the Argentinian coaching staff. There might have been a push, there might have been some swearing. So, Sean, yeah, what in the world happened there?
Just want to add that him Malia going off meant that Argentina had to finish the game with 14 players, and they
Mm,
were a move away from winning it. So, like that alone is enough to make a coach angry. Make the coach Argentinian, the red mist comes a lot easier. Um, he approached Curry in the tunnel after the game. There was a scuffle after the game, which I actually missed.
mm,
Like I turned the TV off straight away once that game finished. Um, uh, like so I missed that whole situation. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna just get to the thing. So the way I saw it was he injured his leg on in the contact part of it, not on the fall. That's how I
Yeah.
see it.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I was just looking at that's just kind of how I see it. Tom Curry was penalized for a late tackle. What else would you like? There's no ways that that is a yellow card or a red card or a straight red or whatever else everyone else is asking for. It's late. You're 100% right. He's close enough to Malia that he can make contact and not have all the Argentinians punching him. Like, you know what I mean? He also is going hard, okay? But then he does, you can see he straightens up. So he's not bending down to go tackle. So he realizes it and then he gets hands and then there's a push or a shove or a. It happens all the time. It happened to Ford all game. It would have happened to Albanos all game. It happens to everyone all game. And it's not just you Lucy's. Us old bullies in the back line, if there's a guy over there that's influencing the game, you've got to get your first tackle in early, even if it's late. You know what I mean? Like, so honestly, I'm just looking at it going, what do you want? Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Because the ref, I think, I think that that's almost not a penalty. Like it was that close, but you kind of need to look at it and then you can be like, okay, yeah, you can make it a penalty because the man's down and everyone's complaining. But you could run that on all day and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was in a that point in the game, they'd made all their subs, they had to finish with 14 players. It's a perfect storm we will never see again. We will never see something like that again. And like I just ask, like, what did you want? Like he was marginally late. He wasn't late. He was marginally late. So he wasn't on time, but he didn't just smoke someone for shits and giggles. Like he was close enough that he could make contact and it would be frowned upon, is maybe a better way of putting it.
Yeah, I also don't really understand what maybe yeah, Sean, you can also add a bit of context of like what happened in the game because he seemed adamant that should have been a yellow card and maybe he was kind of implying that, you know, they didn't get the same sort of like treatment like from the ref, with other incidents. And he because he said he thought it was reckless, which I can kind of get, but like you said, Sean, like I think that is we've seen them every week. A penalty is enough for that. So I don't know. Like, is there something that we're missing with regards to maybe he thought that an earlier incident with an Argentinian was dealt with more harshly than what happened with Curry?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Nothing really stands out. Like Harry's hands and the contact he did was all on Malia's like above his belly button.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it's not like he targeted the knee as well. Like there's also that. So it's very weird. I really just feel that he, firstly, probably wasn't happy with his side's performance in that they should have been in a better place in that game.
of course.
Then having to finish with 14 players and then potentially go on and win it when they almost looked like it was done. It was done, and then something happened. They got a penalty, or someone got a penalty, or they got a try and it was called off, and then they got another try, and then there was a restart coming. Like, so there was a lot happening, and they actually had a chance to steal it in the end. Funny thing, the game finished with a line break and Argentina with advantage in the England 22. And in my head, I was like, they must score now to win because they won't do it off a penalty. And they didn't. They messed up the line out.
Yeah,
That was like, those things that happen in those conversations in your head. You're like, it's got to happen now because I can't trust them to finish it off. Like they've got the line break. England are scrambling. Like, don't like work it a bit more.
yeah,
But England defensively were good. Alex Cole's very, very handy. Guy Pepper, a guy that has very quietly made himself a starter.
yeah, yeah,
Another one that I also totally believe would be then, he's got like 50 capper kind of player. Yeah, just Yeah, it was a cracking game to finish to watch as a neutral, but that Curry thing, it's a nothing.
Look,
It sounds bad, like it sucks that Malia got injured and he's out for like 9 months. But I don't like, yes, Curry was involved, but Curry didn't go for his knee, like he pushed the guy.
but I will say though, obviously, if what happened as Contepomi said it,
Oh
Curry's going
yeah.
to have a pretty long bat. Like there's very few
Ah,
circumstances in which you can put your hands on a coach if that's what happened, obviously. Like,
okay. So, sorry to interrupt you. So this is how that whole thing happened. He was like, I approached him in the tunnel and I told him he's a bully, and Curry, excuse me, told him to fuck off. There is not a player in this world, like, that's over exaggerating. But if a coach walks up to you and starts berating you in the game afterwards, there's very few
yeah,
players that are gonna like look at him and engage in that conversation differently. Like, he deserved
yeah.
that. And then with the hands on, I would like to know how that happened, because it really looks to me like Contepomi was more the aggressor here. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he was a great center. Like, he's still pretty big, looks pretty fit. I know he was saying, I'm a poor 47-year-old
yeah,
man.
yeah,
But
yeah.
this
Like
man can hold
Carlos
his own.
Spencer, poor 46-year-old, he'll just clean your pipes. So,
I wouldn't be pushing Contepomi. I'm just saying, and
no.
I'm like 15 years younger than him. So, look, if that's obviously the case, then Felipe should also be facing some consequences as well if he kind of started the fight. I think, though, where I can kind of get where Contepomi is coming from is Tom. I think if it happened how Felipe described it, Tom should have maybe been like, when he came to the Argentinian changing room, been like, hey, how's Juan Cruz doing? Like, is he fine? Is he okay? It seemed like he didn't really come with that sort of energy. I think he sort of continued as normal, which I don't think he's wrong for that, but maybe he could have maybe just says the situation out and sussed it out a bit better. And then that's, I guess, where the altercation then sort of got going.
Like, it's such a weird thing. Like, now we're expecting players to like be like yes sir, no sir. Like, these oaks are pro rugby players. They're athletes. Like, maybe he thought Malia was just like, maybe he took a knock on the knee and that, like, maybe he didn't know
Yeah.
it was that bad. Like, maybe he doesn't care. And if he doesn't care, it also doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird, like, oh, you got to go in and like give the guy a whole write up and publicly apologize, and then you're a good guy. He doesn't give a shit. Like, everyone in the England setup thinks he's a good guy. Owen Farrell in the England setup and the Lions setup, they all think, and Saracens, they think he's one of the greatest guys ever. It's everyone else that has a problem. Do you think he gives a shit about it? Well, he
Yeah.
did because he left, but like, it gets, you're just like, well, whatever, man. Like, if he doesn't say sorry, then that's just
Yeah.
the kind of person he is. You can have a go at his personality and who he is as an individual. No one really gives a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that Tom Curry has got caught up in probably the second most like weird post-match situation since obviously the one from the World Cup as well. So he doesn't have too much luck with that as well.
And it goes to show what these things mean. Like, what that James Ryan clear out on Malcolm Marx in South Africa meant.
Mm.
Like, it'll always come back. Even if stuff, if it's a nothing, it'll always come back. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's like, ah, Tom Curry, what a doers. We know him. Look at, this is what he did. This is what we expect. And then the narrative is like, oh, he did it on purpose because he's
Mm.
a vindictive player. And you're just like, guys, come on.
Let's do a quick review then of the two teams. Let's start with Argentina. So they played a massive 13 games this season, won six, lost seven. Their best wins are probably the win against the British and Irish Lions, especially considering like that they only had a week to prepare. It's the Lions, it was away and all that sort of stuff. And them beating New Zealand in Argentina as well for the first time. Probably their worst losses are whatever the hell happened in Durban against the Springboks, where they just suddenly caught 60 out of just absolutely nowhere, I think. And then the England Test series in July was obviously quite disappointing. Out of 10, Sean, I mean, I know they have a losing record overall, but I have to give them like a 6.5, maybe even, okay, 6.5, not a seven yet. You need to win. Argentina at this stage needs to be at least 3 out of 6 in the rugby championship, and you need to be winning 50% of your games. That's where you are right now. You are like, I mean, you're a parent, sure, so you can tell me, but I think there's that point where you deal with your child. You're like, look, you're old enough to know better. Argentina's old enough to know better as a rugby nation. But yeah, I mean, still some really good wins, some consistency. It doesn't feel as up and down as it was a few years ago. It kind of feels like the performance is sort of coming to a level. It's just the results sometimes go one way or the other, which I think is a big improvement. And it does feel like they're adding more depth to their team as well.
Yeah, that that win-loss record is not great. The
Yeah.
perception is that they're a 7.5. They're
Yeah.
definitely the way they finished this year. And when the highlights in your head are those wins that you mentioned in their November. Like those are the highlights in your head. But yeah, their stats don't read so nice, man. Um, I'm gonna, because of that, go a 6. Especially that England team at home, like in Argentina in
Mm.
July, was probably there for the taking. And I think we can blame Argentina for the problems we're going to have in 2027 with England. Because Argentina could have killed this off.
Yeah.
They could have changed everything. It wouldn't have mattered in the greater scheme of things because they were depleted and blah, blah, blah. It matters now that they're unbeaten, England. But anyway, I'm going to go with a 6.5 is good. Tyler, you're on the money, eh?
I do
You're
this for a
cooking
living,
me.
to be fair.
Yeah, 6.5. Yeah, that's good. The thing is, they've got a bit of depth. They've blooded some guys and put them in big games, and they've still performed. There's something brewing there, which makes me want. Like the perception is that they're higher, but you can't justify moving them above 6.5.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think that was going to be my thing that I learned is, the likes of like Picardo coming at center and Rapetti, the 20-year-old prop that's come through. And a lot of these guys from Super Rugby Americas are test rate level. Like Super Rugby America seems to be really preparing these guys well. And I mean, we saw Chile as well give Italy a bit of a fright. So Super Rugby America seems to be a really strong level competition.
And then the MLR is going Pete Tong, but
Yeah.
then Super Rugby Americas is producing test props.
Yeah. I wonder which one World Rugby is investing in. Anyway, so, but I think the main thing for Argentina that I've learned is Santi Carrera is a fantastic player. Like he's really now brought his like club form into the international stage. He's now doing well at 10. He's obviously been like a great impact player, like in the second half for a lot of these big games. He's I think pretty much kicked Argentina to the win against New Zealand as well. Did really well, obviously, against Scotland in that comeback. So he's great. And if Argentina could just get a set piece, a tight five, they would be definitely in that like top table like conversation. Like a scrum and a line out, like you literally said, you saw them kick to touch and you were like, this game is over, England's gonna win. So they're that close to being, I think, an elite team.
It's such a weird. Like, how do you lose that? How do you lose your scrum that badly? But they've got the platform to reinvent it. I think that's important.
Yeah, I've
And
got some young
surely
players.
it's a focus. Surely it's something they need to focus on. I don't even think it's a type 5 problem. I'm trying to think of their depth at lock, but I think they're okay.
Yeah, it's
It's
fun, bro.
it's more front row. And by the looks of things, in 2 years' time, their front row could be more competitive. It's almost like they're just like scrum, but you're here to jaw. Like it's got a very weird vibes.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking at the ages of all their props. Everyone's under 30. The
So
tight
they've got two
start.
World Cups.
Yeah, so the tight head that started is the oldest at 28. So Galo or Gajo is 26. Wenger's 23. He's going to Harlequins, right? And Rapeti's 20. So they're coming through. So it's just now, can they just, get that experience and learn and not be, because England really like sort of mic them up in the scrums, and that's been a theme for throughout the year. On the English side, I mean, it's been a stellar year. They've lost literally only one game, their first game of the year. They've won everything else. So they, I think, finished the year with, it's played 12, won 11, lost one. And they are on 11 in a row. So, Sean, I mean, it's clearly a 9 out of, oh, yeah. I mean, I would like to hear from you what you think, but I think it's probably like an 8, 9 out of 10.
I would go 9. I might, not, sorry, I mean 8. It's so weird. Like you said that and it infiltrated my brain. I would go 8. You could probably even argue for slightly under, purely because uh, like you want them to grow more. You need a little bit more stability, a bit more clear game plan, or like because it still seems up in the air. Borthwick has pulled the wool over everyone's eyes. He's gone with the like I'm an idiot, but meanwhile back at the ranch, he's built something quite nice. And I think people are struggling to admit it because they're so used to like what happened previously. But somehow, clearly, I seem one of those people that can't admit it because I'm saying somehow, but somehow he's brought this together
Yeah.
with multiple changes in multiple spaces and challenges and still gone on and gone 11 from 12.
Yeah.
8 is good because there's definitely room to improve, but they've also taken some big wins. Um, and to go unbeaten ish, we go 11 in a row in a lines here is quite something, especially playing in the Americas. Well, specifically Argentina, I think away is quite something. But then they've also, like, Borthwick's also had the plums to bring Ford back because, like, he looks like he's not worried, excuse me, about bringing back an older player for a calm head here and there. Like the Henry Slade one. I know Slade's going to be around for a while, but like the Elliot Daly, it didn't work as well against Argentina, but I can assure you Elliot Daly is a way better player and he's got way more to offer. I mean, this is the Lions fullback, first choice starting who if he wasn't injured.
Mm.
So or 13, I don't know where they were going to play him, but yeah, eight is good. They've got room to improve. I feel if Borthwick messes this up, it's going to be he he's going to be scared to go with something. Like I do think that he's inherently like safe.
Yeah.
So often we see him making changes to the 23 and you're like, oh, this looks exciting. And then he doesn't play all those players. There's some guys on the bench, stay on the bench. He doesn't bring them on in the field
Mm.
because I think he looks at the team and then he talks himself out of it. And then the game plan doesn't suit the team. And like it'll come with if everyone's fit, what midfield is he playing?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like those are the things that like now he's been forced into changes and it's worked well for him and clearly the foundations there are doing the business with the assistant coaches and the balance of the experience and inexperience. But when everyone's fit, what decision does he make? And that would be the swing vote for me.
Yeah. What do you think you've learned about England this year, Sean?
That you need to really worry about them for next year and potentially for the next World Cup.
Mm.
I have been saying it for a while, but there's no doubt about it that they are going to become a challenge. There are definitely weaknesses there, and you need to. But basically, we're gonna. I know I said it on Monday. I really feel England are that much of a threat that we probably not going to go out with a complete full choice first choice team to demolish them next year in South Africa.
Mm.
I think it'll be a case of having a little bit of change and a little look-see here and there, and we'll go. We'd like to win, but I don't think we're going to show them all our cards in that game because I feel we'll need to show them the cards later. There's a very good chance we'll play them in the knockouts if the draw walks accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's a good argument England can say they're like the next in line after the Springboks. And I think for me, the big thing that I've learned about England is they've got it. I mean, teams are kind of struggling for this. I think Ireland at the moment maybe aren't there, New Zealand aren't there, maybe France are the only other ones that are there. England's got a test 23. Actually, you can probably almost say test 30. Like they are at a position now where they feel like most of their first choice, I mean, obviously all their first choice, most of their second choice, maybe even some of their third choices can more than do a job for them, can more than, you know, do what is needed to do against France and against South Africa. So that's obviously a great position to be in. I think you raised a good point, Sean, about, it's kind of on Borthwick now. Like he has the raw materials. Is he ruthless enough in game, in between games to go, okay, this is working, this isn't working. And I think that's kind of what separates Rassie from the rest of the coaches. Like that ability to see something will not work after 10 minutes and just be like, let's change something now, instead of kind of waiting it out and being sort of on the more conservative side. That is what I think separates those teams. And England has a big year this year. I mean, obviously they'll be probably close to favorites, if not the favorites for the Six Nations. And they're coming to South Africa in July. They've got two big games next year, and I think that'll be the judgment for them is France and Paris and South Africa in somewhere in South Africa, probably Joburg. I don't even think England needs to win those necessarily, because I think, it's I think almost England also doesn't need to show all their cards yet. They also can kind of just be like, okay, let's kind of just tone the pace down a little bit so we can sort of sprint up next year. But if
Yeah, they've got
England,
their game plan and they've got the personnel. Like they don't need to change themselves. They just need to be themselves. So that's a great point.
yeah, it kind of also feels like with the game plan thing, it doesn't matter too much for England. Like they have that template of, we'll kick a lot, we'll contest, we'll trust our set piece, we'll trust our defense. But England love to adjust for an opponent. That's, I think, Borthwick's favorite thing is to be like, oh, did you know this team is actually not really good at rucks or something like that, and then focusing on that. So, but yeah, if England can just be close in those two games, I think then that is a good indicator that they're on the right track. If obviously, I think they should at least try to take one of those games, but they can at least sort of hang around, be close, and this will be a good gauge for them to see, how close they are to actually being the finished product. So yeah, very exciting thing to look forward to there. On the
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry, I'm gonna ramble, but you're
go for it.
100% right. Like they don't even need to win it. Like I believe that they have built enough within themselves to start believing the process more. Like, so a loss is not going to derail them.
Mm.
Whereas we look at Ireland and then everyone is like, oh my word, the train is completely off the tracks. They need an overhaul. Like, that's not happening yet. But to be fair, Borthwick is a draw away from being on the chopping block, according to the English media anyway. So we never know.
Yeah, England's going to England. Sure, let's go to the Wales-New Zealand game. So, I mean, we can talk about Wales obviously a bit, after they play the Springboks. I think that, yeah, in terms of the All Blacks, yeah, this was a second team, so we'll give them a bit of grace. It will kind of, I guess, come into the review as well, but just in some ways, some weird rugby that they were playing. Like it just felt like depth was off, their attack wasn't really sure what to do. They play so much in between the 22s, and then they just are lucky that they are blessed with obviously really good one-on-one players like Clark and Satiti that can make meters. But yeah, Sean, I guess it kind of maybe we can go straight into the rankings for them for this year. So, you know, they play um they play 13 games, and I'm just currently trying to tally them up quickly, but they've won 10 of those 13 games and they only lost three times, which seems pretty good. Only losing, to South Africa, to Argentina, and to England. But I think if I would ask you, Sean, for a mark, it's not going to be a high one for that because there's just so much that feels not complete about New Zealand right now.
Considering they don't have a 10, they struggled at 13. It's the worst side ever. That's not bad.
Mm.
But we all know the standards that they play under and for. Um, I would say a 7. And I'm saying a 7 because they really pulled it out with some big games.
Mm.
Um, the first game against the Springboks, the pressure was on. They pulled that out. Then against the Wallabies, there was pressure on that game because the Wallabies were at that time like potentially
Mm.
making a comeback. And then the Ireland game, and then Scotland as well, actually. Not that it should have happened against Scotland, but that was a relatively large win, considering where they were. So they're showing, but the whole thing is it the actual individual talent that they've got that push them over the line and it's papering over the cracks, or is something brewing? And we would all fall onto it's papering over the cracks
Yeah.
because of what we've seen. Like we know that loss, the Springboks loss to the All Blacks at Eden Park was our fault. We should
Yeah.
have done better. Where the All Blacks were going on emotion and they had a game plan, but I feel that we dropped the ball more than the other way around. I thought if we brought the game more, they probably would have crumbled. If we brought our game and the All Blacks won, it would have been one of the best test matches and they would have had to have lifted themselves and come out of nowhere. But I don't feel that we applied enough pressure there. So that changes things. Like if they just lost that game and it was 9 out of 13, we're having a 5 out of 10 conversation,
Mm.
almost feels like. So, yeah, they've got the players. They all really feel like it feels like it's hinging on Moanga coming back. Like it really life feels like everything matters then because then they've got more cover at 10 and 15 and they can still play Bowden and Damien and Moanga and Geordie will come back. They've unearthed some pretty talented guys, like which they do every year anyway, so it's nothing new. Yeah, what did I say? 7? I think 7's on marginally on the high side. I've rounded up. I've rounded up.
Yeah, you're a very generous teacher, Sean. Like, people need you in their lives instead of me because I was genuinely like, maybe it could be 5, but you make good points about like look, there was a time it felt like with Mornay staying where it felt like he was going to be dropped every week and he would just pull that performance out where he's like kicks 10 out of 10, gets a drop goal, maybe sneaks in for a try. And that was probably the game before he get dropped and he just save his place for another few weeks. So it's kind of like I think what the New Zealanders are doing right now is they got that big win in Eden Park. They secured the Bettersloot Cup. They won in Chicago against Ireland. That is probably enough for the Wolves to stay away from the door for Razor. Like they also just lost the rugby championship on points difference. So
But
it's
we do
not.
forget that first win against France. They
Mm.
were terrible.
And I mean, it wasn't them, it wasn't the All Blacks themselves, but obviously everyone in New Zealand was talking about how weak this France team is and
Yes.
disrespectful and everything was wrong. And
Forgot about that.
yeah.
Well, I might have to round down now.
So yeah, to their credit, they did win that series 3-0. But yeah, I think it's probably more 6 out of 10 for me because there's just so many questions still. Like I was a big proponent of no, I think you need to build on their forwards. And yeah, there's been some matches, especially with South Africa and with England, where that forward pack doesn't seem as maybe good and dominant as I thought it would be. Like, yeah, there is bit a bit of a soft underbelly there. And yeah, I guess especially with the England game, there's a lot of injuries, so you can maybe give them a bit of rope for that. But obviously, what Saka did to them, same as what they do to most teams, like that wasn't obviously good. they want to play, a lot of possession in between the 22s, but they just don't have really the attacking backline for it. So you're just like, okay, but as a Proctor, that's the answer. They kind of found out to Paya, but he kind of tailed off a little bit. Okay, Banganuku, is he going to help things out? Okay, Caleb Clark, he seems to be helping out 11, but so there is still a few questions there. Like you said, we're waiting for Richie Monga. They're definitely a better team with Cam Roy got in than out. So yeah, I think there's a few. I think, Sean, if we go, I mean, we don't have to do it now, but like if we go through the 15 of New Zealand or the 23, there's maybe seven players that you're like, we know what they're going to do in the team. There's others you can move positions, and then there's just others that we're not sure if they're first choice or second choice. And that's kind of the problem right now. So yeah, and Razor now is at 2 months, I mean, 2 years now at this job. So not being able to fully see what he wants to do or how he wants to do it is a problem.
That that is the biggest thing is the problem we had with Steve Borthwick, we're seeing more in Razor,
Yeah.
in that you kind of don't know where they're going. I know that on the front end, NZRU are like, we support him, the players are like, we support him, blah, blah, blah. But there are some guys that are sweating profusely because if 2020 next year, what's that? 26? If 2026, it is 26 next year. Yeah. If if it is a dud for the All Blacks, they are in heaps of trouble. Because
Mm.
then it's that conversation. Are we taking him to the World Cup? Is he good enough? It's going to be Foster all over again. He's going to bring Foster in as a consultant to help himself deal with the shit, not even to get involved with the team. Like, it's so that's it. It's got to come good. Like, they need to go on a run of, they need a full calendar year of building performances.
Mm.
And Moanga only comes back in 2027, right?
Yes. Oh
I
no, I
don't,
think 26 end of year tour.
so he only comes back for November. The writing might be on the wall by then,
Mm.
and then they're going to have no more chances. Like, it could be that Razor has zero more chances, has to go unbeaten in November or show good growth, and but it's going to create other problems.
Yeah.
It
And
has to come good now. It must come good.
it's such a heavy year for them because it's the nation's championship. They're doing the tour to South Africa, which also means tour matches as well. So they've now, and they've got two Bledisloe Cup matches. Australia announced that, look, listen here, we're still playing our Bledisloe Cup matches. I don't care what you want to do with South Africa and date them off on the side. So I think it's now 13 test matches and then
Did
four
you say
tour
date them
matches.
off on the side?
Yeah, look,
That's the
Australia just
best.
put the foot down with their fixture announcement saying, look, we don't care what the hell New Zealand and Australia and South Africa want to do. You're going to come play us here. You're going to make sure that we still get our chess match revenue. So they've sorted that out. But yeah,
What happens if they go 0 for 4 against the Springboks?
yeah,
Like, I don't think it'll happen because I don't think we're going full hog, but I mean, imagine.
I mean, yeah, like 4-0 is possible, but also what if you lose to like the Lions or the Stormers or something stupid like that as well, with a pretty decent like team? So these guys are going to be playing like 16, 17 games as the All Blacks in some form or shape. I mean, I know they'll probably take like a 15-man squad for these tour matches as well, but that's a big, heavy, um, like plate for them to deal with. And I don't know, maybe it will help them because now you have pretty much more than half the year with them. You can actually just be like, okay, this is actually how I want to play. This is what I want you guys to do. This is how I want you guys to go face to face. This is when you kick. This is when you don't kick. This is when we counterattack and all that sort of stuff. Or it could just be, this is too much. We also have to deal with injuries every week. We have to deal with now we're playing the Sharks on a Wednesday and it becomes too much and it breaks down. And obviously, they've also been losing an assistant coach a year. So it's just, yeah, things are just a bit chaotic, and it is giving a lot like Ian Foster, which is not a good thing to be giving off if you're an All Black coach.
I have a question. What do the All Blacks have to win 2027 in order for this Razor thing to work?
Yes. I mean, especially for them, that's the standard. Like,
Yeah.
you can't really be like, oh, you got to a final, that's nice. Like, I think literally everyone else can kind of get away with that. But with New Zealand and now, I guess, South Africa, it's win or bust. Even,
Yeah.
I mean, next year's thing, look, I don't think people are going to be thinking they can win this test series, especially in South Africa, but they need to at least get it to the third test match. I don't know how it's going to work because there's that fourth neutral test match in our neutral ground of Twickenham. But if it's not in week 3, 1-1, what's the point of it? Like, it's kind of like what we said with the Lions on the Australia tour. Like, it needs to get to the third weekend. Otherwise, it's a failure.
Is that the test series, the first 3 tests, and the other one's just for shits and giggles and doesn't count in that 4?
I
Because you
don't
can
know.
finish 2-2.
Well, yeah, that's now what I'm asking myself is what then happens if New Zealand gets a 2, or it's 2-1 to South Africa when they fly out of the Republic and then they go play in Las Vegas or wherever, and it's 2-2. Does that count? Are they going to share the, is it Khaleesi and Barrett holding it
No,
on each
I
side?
I don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Are we doing the Lions thing again? Remember when Warburton and Reed looked so mad?
That has to be up there with one of the I don't want to be here. I'd rather I never played this game moments. That one and the other one was when England lost to Australia in the 2015 World Cup. Didn't they give Launchbury the man of the match?
Yes.
Because it was a crowdsourced thing, so it was all voting from the fans.
That sucks so much. I really hate it for Joe. Like, this is why I think man of the match should be done after the match because anything can happen in those last few minutes, and now you look sad. Um,
Jeez, he looked so sad.
yeah. Just very quickly, Sean, on Wales. Like again, we're going to talk about them more, but are you encouraged or discouraged from Saturday?
Um, yeah, I, I don't know. I'd like to say I'm breaking up and you can't there's no reception.
That's fine. We
Um,
can move on.
uh, yeah, I'm bang in the middle of this, eh?
Mm,
Like, there are positives in that there's change and there's some nice things to see, but they're so far behind that whatever's nice doesn't matter when you lose by
yeah.
40.
Yeah, look, I mean, for me, I guess the main thing is they looked so bad against England in that loss at the end of the Six Nations, and they looked at least a lot better than that. So that's a big positive.
True. True.
Okay, let's go. Let's actually go quickly to the Italy-Chile game. I mean, I don't think you watched this, Sean. I think you also sort of did it there to look at. I also looked at highlights. I mean, pretty interesting game. Like Italy was winning 15-0, then Chile came back, started the second half to make it 15-14. And obviously squeaky bum time now. What are Italy going to do? But then Italy was able to stretch it out, and they were able to win. It was pretty much a second Italian team. Like, lots of changes. Most of the first choice players were given the day off. So you could take that result also with a bit of a pinch of salt. But with regards to Italy's year, so they played in the Six Nations. They won the match that they needed to win, which is Wales, of course. So they got 1 out of 5 there. Then they found themselves in South Africa in July. Um, they lost both matches, but also they didn't really take their best team. They rested a lot of their overseas players, so they won against Namibia and then lost pretty heavily in one test. The other test, actually, they kind of were in the battle there. And then in November was a win against Australia, a loss to South Africa, and a win against Chile. So, that gives them then 4 wins out of 11 matches. Two of the wins are in Namibia and Chile, so you can take that. Sorry, no, 4 wins. Sorry. So Namibia and Chile, sure, fair enough. But then the Wales game, the Australia game are the big wins there. That are the highlights. The lowlights is I was actually there for that, but when France put 73 points on them in Rome, which was just an insane performance from France, just an insane game. And yeah, in some ways, not winning that game against South Africa, I think they're going to look back at that, and it's going to be one of those where people, when they do interviews late in their career, being like, we actually really should have beat the world champions at that game. And losing to Scotland, I think Scotland's kind of in their league now. If you lose to Scotland, it's not really a highlight. So, what do you think, Shaun? I don't. I think this is the toughest one to try and rate.
Ah. They've they've definitely grown though. So this is the opposite of what I was talking about earlier when we were chatting about Argentina. Like their numbers don't look good, but the perception is that Italy are back. Like they're Italy are a side that you need to be worried about. Excuse me. When we named our team to face Italy, when we were going to Italy, we were like this is not a stuff around game. We know this. They just come off beating Australia. Could they link two of them together? We didn't know. But then when we got that red card, we're like, we're actually in trouble. Like we could lose this game. So I think that they're on an upward 6. It feels like that's my default my default number. But I think the plane is taking off. I think they've done enough this year that it's not a win or it's not a good performance and then a 70% loss alternating weeks. Like we've
Mm,
seen that in the past where they prepare for a game, they do well in that game, but the next week they're just spent or they're not well enough prepared, adequately focused on the strengths and weaknesses of the opposition. This year they've got enough of a foundation that they don't need to change things too much because the basics are still very much there and they can whip a try out of anywhere. So I think their whole thing is be in with a shout because we're good enough to score 12 points in the last 10 minutes.
yeah, I guess yeah. I'm happy with the 6. I think the thing that I've learned about Italy is they've they really now are quite almost to a negative extent. They now really past the Crowley era. They're not doing the stupid things anymore. I mean, okay, France game aside, they've kind of made sure that they're at least now a team that's relatively difficult to beat, and you have to actually pitch up to do that. But that's also kind of take away their magic, where they can score great set piece tries, but it doesn't feel like they can score like tries when they have the ball for many phases. So it's almost like they kind of need a bit of Chaos Crowley to come back to kind of encourage that part of their game, but they need Casada to give them structure. Like they almost need like a shared coach situation just to get the best out of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like we can definitely see the value in bits of sprinklings of both of those coaches. Like, so we kind of want them to integrate that, but you need them to do it at the right time.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. The big thing is when do they bring it? Like, when do you go full Jean Cruz Malia or Santi Carreras? Like, when do you go full like Santi Carreras and like that's the whole thing. Sometimes you feel like they miss it by doing something when they shouldn't. They run it sometimes, and you're just like, guys, you should really have kicked that out and just defended like machines.
Mm, yeah. I mean, also, it seems like they are really keen on putting in younger players into the national team. Like they did it in July in South Africa. We talked about Odiase coming into the team, the former under 20s captain. This lock, I think he plays for Zebre, Enoch Opoku Jamfi. Like I was watching the highlights. I think after the one try, you just see this big man just come onto screen. You're just like, who in the world is that? And he literally, I think, was playing Italy under 20s this year. He's 146 kilograms. Obviously, he's now sort of their Miafu type of player. Like, yeah, obviously, that's just great for them. They also can add some size to their team. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that it seems like Casada has made it a priority to give, the under 20s who have been great. I mean, Sean, if I'm not mistaken, the last few years they've been beating England and France and doing pretty well in the Six Nations. So giving those players chances is a good idea.
Yeah. When a guy looks big when he runs onto a field of big people, or he looks fast when he's with fast people, then you know there's trouble coming. Like it's crazy. But it's huge. So a lot of these sides they don't have many players to deal with, and then they milk the guys to death, and then that forces a massive clean out eventually, and then you're back to square one. So integrating players in, you don't need to teach them something new because they're part of a system where everyone's doing it, so the learning process becomes easier. But they grow quicker when they're playing with experienced people.
Mm.
And there's nothing better for a nation. There's nothing better for any of your catchment of players in sporting or anywhere in the environments where you give people confidence to be who they need to be because they know that they're going to get recognized. Like, I will always succession planning in South Africa in Springbok rugby was our biggest problem. I
Yeah.
really feel that we just didn't have, we always went World Cup to World Cup, new coach, he just moves everyone out and brings new guys in, new systems, new this, new that. We didn't have any succession planning. You don't get succession planning unless you perform. That's the one thing I think is quite important. But what also happened was what Rassie Erasmus did, whether it was actual conversations or whether the word spread like wildfire, fire, is if you are if you are performing, I will give you a chance.
Mm.
And no, it's not you can't play because you're too small or Scott Brits, you're not big enough to be a hooker and we don't need that cool fancy stuff. Like there's none of that. It's if you're good enough and we can work you into the system, we will adjust the system. And that changes everything. It means opposition can't do anything.
Mm.
Well, they can't really go to school on what you're going to do because they don't know what's always going to come. They need to look at another game plan, see if Khaleesi's got two different roles or whatever the case may be. But what it does to players is it allows players to really be themselves and excel, and then it grows everyone, except the Lions and the Sharks, maybe, because they're not performing. But you know what I mean. Sorry, Ringo, that was a dig, but I added the Sharks in there. But it's really like it matters, and you can see it. We had South African players overseas that started playing better because they realized that they actually had a chance of becoming Springboks,
Mm.
which wasn't the case before. Like it changes everything, and that's what makes me look at Italy and go, they can definitely carry on with this. Like this is not a blip and they're going to drop down. This almost looks like this could be their norm, and they can make this their norm. They
Mm.
will always be beating Wales or Scotland and then not wooden spooning in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
And then they're going to cause an upset somewhere. They're going to force tier like the other tier one sides to take that test
Seriously.
in Rome seriously because you
Yeah.
don't want to take a loss.
Yeah, I think that's the goal for Italy is one win is minimum requirement. Two wins is actually like where you need to be aiming at. Pretty much for both Italy and Wales, aim at Scotland. Obviously aim at each other, but aim at Scotland and trying to get them, off their game. And yeah, just getting to a place, I guess that's a big achievement. If Italy can just make every other tier one team play their first team, that's obviously a massive achievement for them. Let's go to the France-Australia game, a bit of a chaotic game. France winning that 48-33, 12 tries in that game. Some, sure, just some gorgeous tries there. Like, I don't even know where you can start, like with the Angus Bell run. There's a few that Biel was a part of where he scored or he created as well. There was that, for me, I think the try of the day was when Calvin Gorgeous came into the field and that pass on the run. Sean, I still think about that pass every moment of the day.
Unbelievable. I'm so glad you mentioned it. That the gorgeous about that game was gorgeous. Was Calvin Gorges, or I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but it's
Yeah.
only because I've got gorgeous in my brain, so it's overriding anything I try and do with my lips. Um, I thought he was bigger. Everyone was talking about him being this center and everything, and generally, like France have got big centers, like they're not gonna deal with little guys. But he's hit that. He's almost broken that line, and he's got gas off the mark. I think that needs to be said. But he's smiling when that happens.
Yeah.
He's thrown this massive head body swerve, and then he's whipped this pass out wide. Not the perfect pass, but 98% perfect. Like to do that full taps, and knowing that when that pass goes, if Bill Barre catches it, it's a try. Like that's it. And what a way to announce yourself. I speak under correction, but I know that Thomas said it was, I think, but that was his first touch in Test rugby.
Yeah.
First touch. And he's going to do something like that. So just a little bit of a story behind him. He plays for Toulouse, but big in the under 20s. He's played a couple of games at 15 and center and on wing, so he's kind of all over the show. He's got the skills for it, clearly. But he had a leg problem last year that potentially was going to be, if it's not fixed, we're going to have to amputate kind of a leg problem,
Mm.
like with the blood flow or with the something. So he spent a lot of last year not being able to play, basically stood down to get better. So he's been through a little bit already, but he's going to be someone to watch out for. I'd love to see how they incorporate him. And listen, I'm all for it. Anyone that stops people talking about Costes, who's not involved anymore, because I told you he wouldn't be, because he's a little shit, and I didn't think he was good enough anyway. Anyway, but now we've got someone else, and I support him, so I'm okay with that.
What
Okay.
did Costas do to you?
He's a dick. He the Toulouse Sharks game in the Champions Cup, he was a little bitch to someone. Like there was something, can't even remember who it was against, but he threw a ball or had words or rubbed in face or eye. He was a little dick,
Okay,
man.
that does sound like him, to be fair.
Guy that weighs like 85 kilograms wet and he wants to mess around with Springboks. Bugger off. You're only in a good team. You're not that good. Shush. Um, that's going to come back and bite me somewhere along the line when I think he's going to make a move to Pau or
Yeah.
somewhere. Or maybe he goes to Montpellier. Maybe he's got a criminal record and Montpellier sign him. You never
Hey,
know.
Montpellier stopped that now. They signed Adam Beard, who's like the most wholesome man in Welsh rugby, to be fair.
Until he goes there. Just saying. So on to the actual game. Yeah, it very much felt like France knew they were going to win,
Yeah.
but didn't mind giving up points. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Take 12 points or whatever. We'll still go on and win it. Bill Barre. So also, what's with World Rugby dropping World Player of the Year after games? So, so what's his face? Fabian Holland got Young Player of the Year when almost like full time of the All Black game, and we were just about to start playing, I think. And then
Mm.
they dropped the Malcolm Marks one after that. Like, and then I made a joke like, well, no one tell Bio Beret that he's not in the running anymore because Marks won it because he was cooking. Yeah, very weird.
Yeah.
Romain Ntamac's under a little bit of heat, eh?
Excuse me?
Just Romain Ntamac's under a little bit of pressure.
Yeah. It does.
He's
There's something
missing
that's
his,
not quite clicking with the French attack.
yeah, it's the nine. It's
Yeah,
I
Luku was
think
not good, shame.
no, I don't mean I love Luku. I mean the problem with the French attack in Ntamak is the fact that he's missing his partner in crime.
Yeah. Also fair
Um,
enough.
but yeah, Ntamak just seems to be cruising. And I
Mm.
don't recall him coming back from injury or anything recently. So it seems like something like that. It seems like he's come back from injury and finding himself again. But
He did,
he's
yeah.
really the kind of guy that operates a whole test match with like a average heart rate of 48 beats per minute and then does something wild. Like he just doesn't seem to let anything phase him.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's it's an interesting conversation, and I think I personally probably need to watch another game because I'm such a team to Mike person.
Mm.
So I don't want to be like, okay, well, it's this or that. I think there is a problem with their attack. I think I think the alignment is just so off. There's so many situations in which it feels like everyone's too flat when they do get the ball, and they just don't have. And I think France was great at not that they did like crazy things their backline, but they just came in from depth. They're able to pick the running lines that they allowed the Ramoses, the Bielbiaris to kind of pick their line and to sort of go from depth because they're it feels like all of their backline players can pass really well. Like this test match, even for example, I saw some amazing passes from Damien Penaud. Then you're like, oh yeah, he was a 13 for a long time, so he probably could pass. And it just feels like everyone in that French backline can, hit that pass sort of on the run, straight to a player's hands. But it just felt like everyone was too flat. And it felt like the backline when they got to like attacking ball were just kind of just doing hands down the line. And yeah, I mean, I know Tamak's value as a kicker and as a defender is high, but you know, you need a lot more from him, and we know he can do more. So it's just, yeah, what happens? And I think Tamak, if he's not aware, there's this guy from Bordeaux that plays pretty well at 10 as well that can also put some pressure on him. And obviously, there's a lot of people that think that Jalibert should be the person playing 10. So
But
I
he knows that guy from Bordeaux pissed off the coach, so he's in the clear.
maybe it's that. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a part of it that's DuPont related. And maybe he's also kind of finding himself again. Like he did have some injuries on and off the season as well. So it's not like, yeah, he just hasn't really had like uninterrupted rugby since 2023. So maybe he also just needs to build some form.
You don't score 48 points, and Toulouse don't play the way they're playing when he's there if you're shit.
Yeah.
So like he's not operating at where we know he should be, but he's still operating well enough that he can play test match rugby and they can nearly score 50 against the Wallabies.
Mm.
Like, you know what I mean? So he's not a complete passenger, but I do understand that the French game is dictated a lot by what the nine does. And then they've
Mm.
obviously got Ramos. So he does have a lot of assistance, but I don't think he's that much of a passenger. I just think he's quieter than what we used to.
Yeah. I'm actually just wanting to see what his missed tackles were. I think he only missed one because I thought he really handled um Ikitau really well. Like he really sort of gave him like a space to go to, yeah, one missed tackle, and I think he made about six. Oh, look who missed five tackles. Jeez. So it's just, yeah, like something isn't quite clicking when Dupont isn't there. And it does also feel like, geez, France takes a long time to get over losses. Like that was going to be my lesson for them is it's just felt like the South African loss is kind of still hanging, like it's like they just have like a massive hangover. It's just like it's still there. It's still kind of playing in their thing. And I guess maybe it was also partly them realizing, look, we can beat this team, however. So they can score as many points as possible, doesn't matter. But it just does seem like they take some time to really find their feet again. Like we saw that last year with the Six Nations when Ireland beat them, and obviously after the World Cup. So there is something that isn't quite sort of coming together. Like I think the attack coach, obviously he's new from the start of this World Cup cycle. Alata's like all of his ideas coming through. Is Shaun Edwards' position still secure? Like it doesn't seem like the defense. There's sometimes when the defense seems really good, then there's this game. And I don't know if you saw Shaun Edwards' interview after the game. He was literally laughing. I think he was just, when you can only laugh, otherwise you'll cry or be so angry. I think that was his like state of mind that at that time.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of like if I say what I want to say, I'm going to get fired. So I'm just going to laugh and just pretend like I'm Looney Bins.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's big positives like, I think Olivon and Aldred have integrated back into the team. Geelong looks like he's back in top four. Miafu has been fantastic for them. I think he's been a great option. Giard obviously had a great earlier part of the year. we've seen Atisogbe come through. LBB obviously was almost a world player or was in the running for World Player of the Year. Like there are things coming through. Montagnier was not too bad at tight head in the non-Springbok games. The I guess yeah, going to ratings and stuff like that. They obviously, I mean, they had a bit of a weird year because they went to New Zealand. So their July policy of not playing their first team, it comes a cropper when you play a New Zealand or a South Africa at home. So they lost then now 4 games, well, 5 games this year, sorry, which now makes their year look a bit worse for wear because it's now played 11, won 6, lost 5. But you also happen to have won the Six Nations. And the only teams that you lost to are actually New Zealand, which you played away, and the number one team in the world. That was like the only home game that you lost. And obviously they had that stupid loss against England, where I think we're still not sure how they lost that. But Six Nations winners, only 6 wins out of 11. How do you even rate that, Sean?
When you said 6 out of 11, that was kind of like I was kind of like they're at a 5, 6 because the my gut feel is that they should have done better this year. But then you go back and look at July and they took a random side. They were completely written off, and for 2 test matches, they were in the running. Um, they put the All Blacks under pressure. They blooded some new guys. That kind of increased their depth a little bit. They did obviously come off winning the Six Nations, and that was a bit of a blip against England. Shout out to Borthwick. I know we talk about a lot of things, but there's another one to him. So that the big problems for me are the Springbok loss, and how they went about it. Like I think that there was their moment
Mm.
to do it. That's kind of where you measure yourself. Like you're playing the number one side in the world. Um, it's a grudge match. It's this, it's that. And then you get given an opportunity to play against 14 men and go on and do it. And then they started snatching, and the moment became too much for them, which is a concern. And rightfully so. You've nailed it in terms of like their hangover. The French have a bigger hangover than anyone. They really, really do. Um, Ireland maybe next in line, maybe,
Mm.
but France really they hang properly. They have a 2 day hangover every time. They're too old for this drinking thing, and it impacts them. So yeah, like even though they could have performed better against Australia. They could really have gone out and cemented like themselves as being contenders by obliterating Australia and purely by conceding less points. The 48, what is it, 40 something?
Yeah.
48 points is fine. Could have made it 60, but it's the 30 something that they conceded that I feel that they'll be a little bit bummed by. But conversely, you're always playing against someone else who has their own plans and wants to do their own things. And the Aussies clearly did have a week off in Paris and chilled and relaxed and had a good time. Like they seem to be better. But 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't give the Six Nations champions, I think, 4 out of 10 unless they lost everything. And kind of can understand a lot of the losses. I think they'd actually be genuinely disappointed they didn't get at least one game in New Zealand. Like, I think that's where their standards are that even if we take a third team, it's fine. It should have at least gotten a test match there. Obviously, the South Africa loss was a big one, but they absolutely pulverized Ireland in Ireland. They did what they needed to do in the other games. I guess from the question, look, even with the South Africa game, they still won that, or they still, sorry, could have won that, even when things in their game plan weren't really coming together with regards to, their scrum wasn't working, like the bench didn't give the impact that it wanted, like their more wasn't, going gangbusters like it was during the Six Nations. So there's aspects of that where you can be like, okay, cool. LBB scores one of those tries when the red card was there, it's now a 15-point gap instead of just a, a 3-point gap. And now it's a lot for South Africa to try and do with 14 men. And they win the game. It's all fine. We then are camped at World Rugby offices after that game in Paris. I guess the question though is we still need to fix a lot of those things. So the main thing they need to fix is props. And that's my question for them is where are your props? Like who's coming in, who's coming through?
Winnie Antonio is going to play until 2027. He just doesn't know it yet.
I think he knows it. I think that's why he's hiding right now. But yeah, so yeah, is it Antonio? Does he need to basically play for as long as possible? Like the guys that they played in July and in the November series, the Montañez, the Barriers, like those sort of like younger props, like are they, of standard? Are they good enough? Do we need to call Rabah Slimani? Does he need to be a part of these things? Like, we saw Colombia has now moved to Toulouse. Like, is that going to help things? Like, they just need to, I think, just decide on 6 props for obviously 2027. And if they're like, okay, it's Antonio and these 5 youngsters, cool, then get those youngsters as many minutes as possible. I mean, Cyril Bai was available. They don't choose him in any of the squads for this November. Is that because they don't think he's good enough anymore? What's kind of the story there? So they need to, I think, make some decisions about prop and make them as quick as possible. I think certain other things I can kind of excuse because of the injuries. So maybe attack will look better. I mean, DuPont is obviously one thing, but with Mofana at 12 and actually hitting those like lines that he was, then he was actually now becoming a test match level player. That will help a lot. And, the forwards, they were fine, but, having Malvaka instead of Lamotte as your bench hooker matters a lot. Having Guyard coming on instead of, Taufi Fano is also on that 2027 plan with Antonio. But having Guyard coming on is makes things a lot better. So they've found a lot of depth. We know they have about 30 plus players that can play at test level comfortably. If there's one position you're worried about, it's prop.
Yeah, you make a good point. That potentially should be looking at that. Like pick 8 props and just cycle through them for the rest of next year, because you'll know who's about to like perform and who you can trust and etc. And then you need to have those conversations with Winnie Antonio's wife and Cyril Bau's wife and just say, listen, he might be gone for 3 months in 2027, but then I promise you we'll leave him alone forever. Like, we're gonna just let you know that in an emergency, we're gonna Mornay stain him. We're gonna activate that Mornay stain clause. We're gonna bring him out of retirement and use him. Because the thing is, the nice thing about props is like if they can stay fit, like if they can just stay match fit, like they'll do fine. Like to hold up an end. The thing about scrummaging is your scrum doesn't have to be a weapon. The Springboks, everyone's like, oh, you need to make your scrum a weapon. It's really difficult to do that. Sometimes you've got to, and it happens in all aspects of rugby, is you'll be like, cool, I'll let you, that's your weapon. So just me standing up to your weapon is a good enough counter move to allow me to let my weapon go, So same as with lineouts and other things. So that's a good shot. 6 to 8 props. Give your first next choices a good run, or you start alternating them together with someone else and just like let them work. Just send them to Dance Farm for a while on condition that they give us the game if we play them in a knockout.
What's Peter de Villiers doing these days? Like, I'm sure he can be
He's at Scotland.
Scrum doctor.
Peter de Villiers, the French guy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's at Scotland.
Oh, yes, of course.
He's been at Scotland for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
He actually from my hometown.
Ah.
Yeah. I know his brother very well. Still haven't got to meet Peter yet, but I'll make plans.
Yeah, I mean, trying to remember who is their scrum coach. I guess it's William Savard. And I mean, look, he's great. But yeah, something just needs to happen where they just go to their props okay, it's U6 now for the rest of the time. Cologne, you need to lose weight. Okay, you need to get better at this. You need to get better at that. Like, I think that's literally the only thing they're missing in order to be competitive against the Box and to really be number one in the world. So we'll see. Obviously, they're defending Six Nations.
Demba Bamba's still surely got to be in the mix.
Hmm.
Kalam Bamba, yeah, maybe it's too late, but Kalam, I don't know. Like he's a big guy. He's tall though.
Yeah, that's the
So
problem.
yeah, so he can't really lose too much weight. I don't know. I don't look at him as being, I don't know. You think he's unfit?
I don't know. Look, I mean, he once kind of held his own in the scrum against New Zealand and he had gastro, we found out. So, look, I'll always give him credit for
Could not think of a worse thing for a prop to have. Could not. What are you doing? You are literally pushing. You're getting pushed and then you are getting pushed. Like, I'm sorry, but there's some stuff trickling. There's no ways you can control your sphincter when you're doing that. No ways. There's no ways. I mean, how do you tell? Like, what do you like whisper into the other prop's ear going, listen, please don't push too hard because I'm going to shut on my locks.
we
Like, what do you
actually
do? What do you like? What part of your body are you clenching when the ref goes engage? Like, what are you?
we need to actually talk. I think it's Mighty Williams that was the other prop. We need to actually hear from him. Like, what was his perspective from that game? And the lock, was it Flamand probably? Like, what was happening there?
He hasn't played Test rugby since then. He's like, here's your invite to the thing. I'm not making it. I'm done. PTSD. I'm done.
Yeah, something needs to be done there, clearly, even if we just make sure he doesn't have gastro before games. Sean, on the Wallaby side,
It's like
you
having a
know,
finger injury if you're a scrum off. Like, you can't do
what do
it.
you
Like, what?
do?
Oh, I think I just spat on myself. Oh.
Sean, yeah, I mean, number one, I mean, I just saw an article, I think I sent you on the WhatsApp group, that this Joe Schmidt timeline just keeps getting pushed back and back every like few months. So now there was an article saying like, no, there's no pressure on Joe Schmidt because he'll still be the coach until the end of the July tests. So he'll stop after the July tests and then hand over to Les Kiss. That's now the new timeline.
And do you know how they packaged it? They've packaged it in such a way that they'd be like, well, Les Kiss has got to see out his Reds thing.
Mm,
So RA are making a business decision here. They don't want to pay Joe Schmidt out. Not that they have to pay him out, but
yeah.
because he left voluntarily. But I don't know how the contract works or is worded. But maybe they have to pay out the Reds to bring Kiss in. I, I'm I really feel this is going to be. How do you keep someone like Les Kiss motivated to go and do a whole Super Rugby season, knowing that he's still got this job? It's weird.
Mm,
How, oh, it's very strange. Like, yeah, very weird. But yeah, it just keeps getting pushed back. I haven't even been paying attention, and I'm like, why is he still there? What has happened? I haven't heard anything about Les Kiss. So did they have a falling out and they're just hoping no one will ask questions? But now we find that, I mean, this is the third time.
mm,
It has to be financial or it has to be a personality problem. Something's happened somewhere,
yeah.
whether it's a money decision or a gelling decision.
Yeah, I think you were right about it being a money decision because that makes actually the most sense that it's all about, okay, the RA just doesn't want to pay out the Reds. So they're just going, okay, we're going to do this red arrangement. And luckily for them, Schmidt and Kiss have worked together, I think, for Leinster back in the day. So there is that relationship that it's it's not like it's Jake White and Rassie Erasmus, like people that probably don't know each other and hate each other. So
But Joe's still going to be involved in Rugby Australia with Les
yeah.
coaching, so maybe that will help reduce the animosity a little bit.
So
Seems
yeah,
very weird.
it just I don't, but I like I get it, but I'm also like, is your plan now that Joe Schmidt literally does 3 tests next year, and then you have 2 weeks in between, I guess, your last test against, I think it's France or Italy or whatever. Then you play Japan, and then Les Kiss will just be like, "Hi guys, okay, cool, let's come in." Does Is he gonna do these like January, February camps that they usually do? Like, yeah, it's such a messy like situation. And I mean, kind of coming on to now Australia's performance this year, a weird year for Australia. Like, on one hand, you have a historic win against South Africa. Were in a position to win the rugby championship, 4 or 5 weeks down. You actually, yeah, there's at least a world where you could have won the British Irish Lions series as well. But your year is played 15, won 5, lost 10. How do you even
Yeah.
begin to rate that?
I'm going to give the Wallabies a 4 out of 10. I, I'm just disappointed. I'm never going to get over. I know I said I wouldn't mention it. I'm never going to get over the Lions tour that they could have gone into the third test 1-1. I'm not going to get over it because they were one test away prior to that series, one extra test from doing that, I believe.
Mm,
Whether they could have fitted in or not, I don't know, whatever. But there's that. Like the blip on the radar is the Springbok win.
mm,
You take that away. If you like, sport is lovely and it doesn't go according to plan, but let's say that that was probably one of the biggest upsets. You take that away, and their season looks infinitely worse. Not just
yeah,
one game loss worse. Look, like that kind of papered over the cracks. But then the thing is they had so many ups and downs, and maybe it's this whole Joe Schmidt Les Kiss thing.
mm,
Maybe that because everyone's got to get motivated in their mindset in different things, and then Joe walks in the door. You're like, "Bud, are you coming to say goodbye again? Or when are we? How many farewell parties has he had? Like they could have paid someone's wages with the amount of farewell parties he had. Like Les Kiss is like, but if you stop throwing this guy parties, you could have bought me out of my, and I could be here doing my job, as opposed to my fake job that Proudfoot was sent on before he went to the Springbok coaching. Like, you know what I mean? It's very,
yeah,
very weird. But I do think that that has affected the team. I really do. It's hard to not see all of that confusion, and I'm sure there would have been more clarity in-house. It would be stupid not to.
yeah.
But they're under pressure already. It was the Lions tour. They were under pressure. They came up with the goods one game too late. They hosting a World Cup soon. They're on a massive downward spiral. They've just come out of the last 2 coaches worth of shit show. They're currently busy in a shit show with this coach and the next one. And then they come good every now and then, but the end of year they don't. So the building blocks are not there. It's just a blip on the radar every time. That's what it is. That Lions win is a blip. That Springbok win is a blip.
Yeah.
Like it's a oh shit, we came good. And you're like, cool,
Mm.
let's build on it. And they're like, nah, next year. We'll build on it next year.
Yeah, it's tough to argue that. Like, yeah, when you lose 10 times in a year, like it's really tough to be like, okay, the team that you were in your 5 wins is your team, where it's actually more maybe that you're consistently just, yeah, not bringing the goods. I think for me, the biggest disappointment actually was the Bledisloe Cup. Not that I expect them to win it. That's too much to expect from them in the last 20 years, but they just weren't even really that competitive. Like it wasn't like that they really threw any real punches at the All Blacks again.
And that was at the time that we had the perception that they were on the up.
Yeah.
Like that was that. And that imagine being a Wallaby supporter.
Mm.
Like your whole life is just like it's the hope that kills. It's basically Scotland in disguise.
Yeah, it's actually not too far off. Like, so the defenses for them are okay. Pretty much all the games where Will Skelton played, or the ones they won or looked really good. When he didn't play, they looked a step below. Now the likes of Ikitau and Hooper won't be available for all their matches, and that was obviously a factor. Valentini was in and out with injury pretty much the whole year. Tom Wright was out. James Lipper retired during the year. So they had lots of issues at 9 and 10 for a lot of the year as well. So, a bit better injury luck. They maybe do have 26, 27 players that can sort of do the thing, but they have, let's say, a handful of players that they need to be in their teams every week if they're playing a tier one team. Like they need Skelton there, they need Bell there, they need Valentini there, probably McWright, Ikitau, and Tom Wright. Basically, those guys need to all be there if they're going to win again against a tier one team, or at least 4 out of the 6. And yeah, that's not a great position to be in, obviously, with the World Cup and stuff like that happening.
Yeah, Skelton, Ikita, Wright
Mm.
are those guys. Their spine if you wangle it hard enough, you look at a nice angle. Um, I, as much as that is the case, yes, I feel like another place that they lost is the Nick White.
Mm.
Nick White has been up and down. He's been in and out and whatever, but what he brought, they haven't been able to replace yet. But then it's also, there hasn't been a chance for anyone to really cement themselves and move forward. McDermott, what's the story? Is he injured?
Yeah.
Okay, so the White McDermott, like to lose White McDermott Gordon are your nines. Like Australia are in such a bad space that they have, if they're lucky, a 27-man squad that will get them through. But they can never pick that full 27-man squad
Mm.
because they've always got 3 or 4 players not involved for French reasons or injury reasons, which is a natural part of the game, the injury side. The French side, they're going to have to start juggling, and like we've done, and like Argentina have done. But the
Mm.
thing is, it's coming at such a bad time for them. They've really got no one to come through. So it's almost like every single time they play, they're plugging holes as opposed to working with a plan. There's no doubt that there is a plan and something like there's certain kind of KPAs, the KPIs that need to be reached, etc., but they keep getting derailed or sabotaged, not sabotaged, derailed by an injury or by a French club moaning a little bit louder when there might have been a semi-agreement in place, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm.
A form problem, the revolving 10 problem, just weird stuff like guys brought in but not used long enough or from what the general public look at is probably not the right way. Like they weren't used the right way. You
Mm.
almost feel like guys would have done better if they just stuck with those 2 guys and worked them for a little bit. But it's very much an in and an out situation. It, the Springboks know who who is going to play the first test against the All Blacks. Like we know
Mm.
who 90% of our squad is. And we know who's going to play the fourth test in Twickenham or Twickfontein or whatever the case may be. We know that now. I feel like
Yeah.
Australia don't know who's going to start the next game
Mm.
because there's so many other logistical issues along with real life problems of injuries and form and political interference and money and all that. So that's the problem. Like going on November tour, Carter Gordon, he knew he was going to get a game, but then he didn't get a game. I'm sure he would have been like, this doesn't make sense to me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like there's a good example of it just was weird. James O'Connor out in left Australia, landed, high-fived his new club, turned around and went back to go play again. What cuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, did they have to do that? Like, did he have to physically report in because they needed to make Leicester happy that he was there, or did they not know they were going to need him? But we all knew they were going to use him because the news broke before he flew that he was going to get used. Rumor had it, but it was, I don't know, it doesn't look good.
Yeah. Okay, Sean. Finally, Scotland. So they won against Tonga 58-0. The year ends played 12, won 6, lost 6. Do you want to know who they beat in the 6 games that they won?
Yes,
So they
please.
started with Italy, then they beat Wales, then they beat the Maori All Blacks.
Does that count?
Let's count it for now. Then they beat Samoa, then they beat the mighty USA, and then finally they beat Tonga. So those are your 6 wins.
Wow. Wow.
I don't even know what to say is a highlight for the year.
That is, that changes everything. Gregor Townsend's going into his review and they're going to put that up on the board and he's going to be like, oh, I'm in trouble. Because there's a lot of moral victories they've had. Like they've had more. I mean, if we go through their moral victories, like they're looking pretty good, but none of them really equated to victories.
So they were quite close to winning against England. They gave Fiji a game in Fiji. Okay, this is not a moral victory. This is genuine props from me. They really are actually the best tier 1 team doing something for tier 2 and actually giving them games. Like they've been absolutely amazing with that. Like it's now what 7, 8 games they've given to tier 2 teams. I'll always give them credit for that. On the other hand,
But on the other hand, Darren,
yeah, this also means that you're losing to England, Ireland, New Zealand, Argentina. Yeah, they lost to Fiji, of course. Yeah, I just don't know. Like, France, obviously, I didn't add them. Like, yeah, I think the car's stuck. The car is stuck, Sean. I don't know. I can't even say I've learned anything from this year from Gregor Townsend and the Scotland team.
they couldn't afford to buy a Toyota, so they bought a Ford and then made it look like it could do Toyota stuff, and then it couldn't and broke down. And then, like, that's basically what happened. Yeah, listen, so I quite like Scotland. Like I like them. There's a lot of South Africans there. Carl Steyn, my my buddy who doesn't like me, like he's there. A lot of South Africans. Um, Dempsey's there. Like the man is having one of the greatest comeback. He's probably got to be the best country switcher that's ever been. There's no one that has impacted his second team as much as he has in these early moves. Most of the guys have just hung around for a World Cup. Um, yo, so the one thing for sure is they there's definitely potential. And I know Carl Stan just basically came out and said, listen, can we stop talking about this and just go and do it? That is how close they are
Mm.
to turning things around. It's a mindset thing. Those big losses they took in November were a mindset thing. They may still have lost the game, but excuse me, it's the how that I think is the biggest concern, especially because this is talk of the greatest Scottish side ever. And to be fair, they didn't throw a punch in Rugby World Cup either. So it's a little bit difficult to look at that. But I like them and they've got potential. I think we like what they might bring. But we also, as South Africans, know that whatever they bring, it'll be for a game. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a long-term problem like Ireland became. Like, I don't see Scotland becoming a long-term problem for many sides. But I don't think they've run their course yet in that I think it's finished. I think there's still enough guys coming through. The couple positions that are unfortunately big positions where they're going to struggle, but it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Is that a change of captaincy? Is that a slight tweak of team? Is it a change of coach? Someone needs to just send them to come Staldrats and just harden them up a little bit.
That can't be a solution, Sean.
No, I don't know. Like, do they need to go and do an SAS week? I don't know. Like,
Sure,
but
I think I think there's all the tricks are out of the bag now. It's over. Like they've had their run. I don't necessarily think another coach does much better than Gregor Townsend, but I think it's just some things just have run their course.
I think they need to go to Fiji. They need to go and spend a preseason in Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga, and just go and live the simple life and run up sand dunes for days. Like, I think they need that maybe. Like, kind of know, like, know where you are and how good things are, and you know what I mean? Like, maybe a different perspective. Not what I said makes me say that they feel like they're too big for themselves. They're not. Like, just a bit of perspective. Maybe that's, but having said that, they've spent so much time with those other nations, as you said, they don't.
Yeah.
Four out of 10. 4 out of 10, because I was definitely going with the five until you mentioned who they beat. But my word, the gut feel, that perception is that they were a lot better than that. But when you actually put it in black and white, you're just kind of like, wow, that's sad reading.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem like they're getting like just seems like their days of obviously they had that, that the win over England. Doesn't seem like that's going to be happening anytime soon now. So we know they can't beat Ireland. I think France is now wised up to not playing chaos ball against Scotland now. So you just like to Scotland, okay, where is the big win going to come from? It's now literally just keeping Wales and Italy off your backs and trying to not sort of be a 1 out of 5 in the Six Nations, like just trying to get to two at the very least. So yeah, it's like there was a lot of promise and progress, I think, in this time. I do genuinely think like Towns has done a lot right, and this group of players have done a lot well, especially with the Calcutta Cup. But I just don't see this going further. Like it needs to end. Bring Franco Smith in, let him try for the next 4 to 6 years to just see what, differences he can make. Sean, let's get to the just finally just wrapping up with the World Rugby Team of the Year. Um, that was announced on Tuesday after the player and the breakthrough player of the year were announced, and yeah, I mean 6 Springboks are there, and then basically just a smart smattering of like players from like a few of the other sides. So front rows, Mche, Marks, Thomas Totoy, Loxo Itoje, and Ty Byrne. Loose forwards, Peter Stave, Tom Curry, and Harry Wilson. Halfbacks, you have Cam Roygan, Sasha Fine, and Mazulu. Centers is Eki Town, Hugh Jones. Back three, LBB, Colby, and Wolf Jordan. What's your reaction? Who's the biggest snub? Yeah. Where are you fighting World Rugby on this?
Listen, it's not as controversial.
Yeah, we've seen
Uh,
worse.
yes, it's quite balanced. I would, for sure, I think you mentioned it. I think the Finn Russell at 10
Mm.
is a fair call, especially, didn't you say that Sasha only really made 10 his jumper in September? So
Yeah. I mean,
Finn,
like
Finn's
again, it
been
depends
cooking.
on if the alternation series counts, I guess, fair enough, obviously. But this is the question with this thing is that it counts sometimes, it kind of doesn't count other times.
Can we
It's
just get
just
some
not
clarity, man? Can we just get clarity? Can you just give us just like forget about all the other crap. Can you just tell us from what month to what month these things work, and it'll make everyone's decision better. So the Finn thing, I think, is worth a conversation because Lions 10 been very good for Scotland, one of the standout players. But then again, Scotland not done so well.
I mean, that's not his fault.
No, no. Ramos at 15 without a shadow of a doubt. If I was going to start throwing hands, it would be that Ramos has been head and shoulders one of the best and consistent 15s
Mm.
last year, this year, the overlap of the years, every year, like however you want to manage it, he's managed to do that. The other part of it is Will Jordan has done all his stuff not at 15.
Yeah.
So he's a winger.
Yeah, like I genuinely think a lot of his best games have been actually playing at fullback. I mean, at wing instead of fullback. And he, like New Zealand and him, have had big problems under the high ball. And we're just going to forget that as well. Yeah, I mean, look, if we can
He's not going to have a high ball problem because all the kickers are playing on his team, so the other team don't have kickers.
fair enough. So if we are going to count with like especially with like Sasha, like if we are gonna count like that the fact that he basically only really started like I think it was one game in July, four of the rugby champ or three of the rugby championship games, and then obviously became like the incumbent 10. Then, on that basis, Jasper Visa could have gotten in at 8 instead of Harry Wilson, because he was clearly the best 8, I think, in the world. He was the most consistent. Obviously, Doris fell off because of injury. Um, there was rotation with Argentina. Xavier didn't really play that much 8. He played more 7 than 8. So I would probably also then go, okay, cool. If Sasha's in, then you could actually find room for Jasper Visa because he was probably better. I don't mind too much the Wilson thing. I think he was really good in a lot of parts. Like we've talked about him probably needing to shut up a little bit when he's captain, but he was great in some ways. I do think it's a bit of a problem how they use him sometimes, but I think it's fine. I yeah, I think then Jasper could have got in. I still think Vocalo was way better than Thomas du Toit at tight head. I think he's obviously like the big impact player. But yeah, and Cam Roigard also didn't really play that many games because he also missed a big chunk of the rugby championship. But yeah, apart from that, it's really, I think, that the two that you mentioned that I have bigger problems with.
Yeah. Oh, that Wilco and Thomas the Tank is an interesting call.
Mm,
I I would still pick Thomas. I think he's been so
fair enough.
good, but he has played on the other side of the scrum. And to be fair, all the times that he dominated was in November, and that opens up the
Mhm.
conversation for Jasper and others. You see, World Rugby, let's just keep all the lines slightly there but rubbed out, and we'll just ignore it when the questions come.
Yeah. Sean, very two quick questions, just to finish off. Sorry, I think there was a bit of a delay there. Just two quick questions to finish off. Number one, if like the tier one sides, I mean, okay, we didn't look at Fiji and Japan. Fiji won 6 out of their 9 games, and pretty much the only games that they lost were England and France. And I think um, they lost obviously to Australia at the start of the year. So they had a pretty good year. They won Pacific Nations Championship. Japan seemed to be on the right track now. Like last year was horrible. This year seems to be okay. They're starting to build something here. Actually, would be an interesting like triangular series between Japan, Wales, and Georgia right now. It feels like they're all like on the same level. And obviously
For a
Japan,
spot in the Six Nations.
yeah, literally, maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, they seem to be actually playing like quite well against each other. I don't think we mentioned this in the other podcast, but big shout out to Samoa. They qualified for the World Cup. They beat Belgium in an epic game. Belgium really defended well, but Samoa, with a draw, literally like scraped through into the World Cup. I mean, don't think that says good things about Samoa and their future in their rugby because things are not going well there, but at least they made it. But the two questions I want to finish off with you, Sean. We said there's a top five, and then there's the rest, especially with the tier ones. So out of Australia, Argentina, Italy, Scotland, Fiji, we can add there. Who's the team that's going to join the party at the top?
Argentina.
Okay. I think I
It's
agree.
very low-hanging fruit, but they have shown the most promise, and I think Australia are running out of time.
Yeah. I'll just say Australia because I think Les Kiss has had more than a year to plan for this job. So maybe I something we can
Literally,
do.
and You never know. He might have had 2 years to plan for it by the time he takes the position.
In 2030 when he finally becomes coach. Last question. Out of the other five teams, who's the biggest worry for the Springboks for the next 2 years?
Out of in like the top five.
Yeah, so France, England, New Zealand, Ireland.
I really think England are a problem. And I, but I do think that France and Ireland are going to spoil the party for someone. I think out of all of them, I think England have the potential to go deeper. But I think France and Ireland could potentially, well, we'll run into another side that will be an issue. I think England and I'm going to go England.
Okay. England have really done well this year. They were definitely not in this position this time last year. Yeah, I still say it's France. I still think they have obviously the depth and the quality and superstars and the power. And yeah, I think, yeah, maybe kind of like how the Springboks lost in 2022 against France and then were able to turn around for the World Cup. Maybe it's also good that they lost now and they know how far they need to come in order to win when it all counts. I wouldn't be too surprised. I know they're playing France in South Africa in France. I wouldn't be too surprised if Galtier just throws like a random team out there and just goes, I'm not going to show you guys anything more. If we lose, we lose. We don't really care. We'll literally just tell, like, we'll even throw Baptiste around in this game and just tell him to go chaos mode and just have nothing for you to come to work off from this game.
Yeah, that would actually be a worry because of the reasons why you mentioned. Like, they don't care about the battle, they want to win the war.
Yeah.
And that means they're preparing for the war. Where,
Yeah.
like,
So I guess the
Ireland,
question is and I guess that's almost like a sub question. Actually, I'll ask you this very quickly. Out of the other four coaches, so it's Andy Farrell, Steve Borthwick, Fabian Galtier, and Razor. Who do you think is the biggest threat to like Rassie as a coach?
it's between Farrell and Gaultier for me.
Mm.
I still think they've got more to offer, but they've also got the players to do it. And it's so weird because I'm still not trusting Borthwick when everything I will say will be England, but then you're like, is Borthwick good? And I'll be like, nah. So I still think the jury's out on Borthwick. Like, has he? But it's not like he got this unbelievable squad and he's just milking it for all it's worth. Like, he's created some of it.
Mm.
So Borthwick could be sliding underneath. So Gaultier, yeah, that is such a great question, man. I'm gonna I'm gonna go Farrell. I'm gonna go Farrell because I think they can work out a way of being competitive against us, but I think France will bring, like, I think Ireland will um, reverse engineer a game plan for us, where I think France will play their whole game plan against us, and I think we can. That's why I think Farrell's a bit of a. Oh, I don't know. I want to talk about this again in a year.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need some answers first because I don't have the mental capacity to commit to something. I really feel like I'm sitting on the fence. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, we're about few more pages to go to fully close off the international rugby for 2025. Yeah, I think bumper edition now we've been able to review a lot of the tier one sides, talk about where they're going and how they are trying to do things. And yeah, I think it leaves us with a few interesting questions. I mean, we're now 2 years away from the World Cup, and I think we can see who's sort of shaping up where. So let's draw a line under that and let's end the podcast here. So thank you everyone for listening to this Rugby Bits podcast. Please follow us on social media channels for updates on what's happening around the rugby world. There is a test match to look forward to on Saturday. The Springboks facing Wales. There's URC back. Shaun, you will have to become a Sharks fan again, like after a few weeks off. So I'm very excited for you to to enjoy that for yourself.
Are you
But yeah,
excited for the UXK derby? Are you scared?
no, I think we'll be fine. I just don't know who's, I mean, I haven't really seen the news about who actually is coming back. I know the Sharks have gotten quite a few of the Springboks back, like Williams, I think, is back, and I think Sasha's gone back to the Storm, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we'll probably get confirmation tomorrow when the Springbok team comes out as we record this. But yeah, we'll beat the Lions. Don't worry about it. You know, if 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 the Griquas can beat the Lions, we should be fine. As they
That's all I
beat us.
wanted. I wanted some commitment to that because now we need to see the Lions do it.
Yeah, so there's going to be Test rugby to look forward to next week. We're going to be back in club rugby. We're going to have the Champions Cup actually in a week's time as well. So all of that to look forward to. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you again next week. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.